Welcome, friends, to Tanked Up, the podcast all about video games and beer. I'm one of your hosts, Ben. It's episode 285. Ooh, 15.
Big number.
15 off. A big one, I suppose.
Yeah.
15 off a big one.
That's a huge one,
yeah. Yeah, jeez. Anyway, I'm here with Lucy.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi again.
Should we hang out, drink some beers, chat about some
Yes. I always like hanging out with you.
Good. And are you?
Well.
And are you, Lucy? Adam's off on his holiday. He's been whisked away from us for a lovely weekend away, or a lovely week away, actually. Lucy, why don't you start the proceedings and open up a beer?
Yeah. I'm going to have 2 this week. My week off, so, when in Rome. And I've resorted back to type, and I'm having a Fractal from Equilibrium.
Okay.
Not sure if I've had this one on the podcast. I think I had something that was... It might have been a different Fractal, because a lot of their beers, they do reuse their names.
Yes.
So we'd have to look back in the annals of Tanked Up and see if I have had it before. But yeah, this is the Citra Mosaic one. 6.8% IPA, and it's in a pint can.
Ooh.
Yes.
An American pint can.
Yeah, it would be American pint can.
Which I think is
so
500 ml, I think.
Who's to know? There's no way of checking. I only do metric.
That's fair.
This nonsense with these gallons, and to be fair, like in Britain, we measure so many things in like just we measure like metric and imperial. It's like it's nuts. It's just
it is nuts. It is nuts. It's weird the way that we do things over here.
Like, how fast are you driving? 60 miles an hour. How long was your run this morning? 5K. And it's just like, what does that mean?
Exactly. And again, like you drink a pint, which is what 548 mil or something milliliters, something like that. Yet when you're cooking, you generally do it in bang on millimeters. 300 millimeters is required for this. It's not 1 pint. It's not half a pint. It's just in milliliters. Anyway,
because I'm brown, I don't use measurements when I cook. It's just like that'll do. Dash of that.
That's fair.
Do it by eye.
That's
these measuring jugs.
Yeah, just like my.
Those are only for drinking out of.
Only water as well. Just water out of the measuring jug. I am going to drink a beer this evening. I got a couple of beers. I'm going to go a little bit backwards. I'm going to drink the one with the higher ABV first, because my second one is a bigger stout. But first, I'm going to drink a New England double IPA at 8% from Burnt Mill and Track, called Enigmatic Galaxies. I saw this. I love picking up Burnt Mill. They're great. Track are excellent as well. This is the first collaboration I've had from them. I don't know if it's the first they've done, but it's definitely the first that I've seen. There is a touch of flavour text, brewed in collaboration with our friends at Track Brewing Co. For this dipper, we chose a blend of extra pale, Munich, flaked oats, and chit for plenty of body. We whirlpooled and dry hopped with Enigma and Galaxy hops that bring the huge, bright, tropical citrus aromatics we can't get enough of. Enigmatic Galaxies makes sense that they're the two hops that have been used. Ooh. This came out a while ago. It was brewed back in March, so it's still within its best before, at least on the back of the can, which is fine. So
it's something that I never think to do, like when I'm picking up beers. I just grab it and just think. Never actually think to look at like the best before date, which is obviously like shops, they rotate their stock, so the oldest beers are at the front of the shelf. But
Yep.
yeah, I never
Yep.
think about it.
And I did take a quick look when I picked these up, picked a few beers up the other day, in the little bargain bucket that they have, which is generally beers that have just gone over their dates,
Yeah,
and a few of them were more than a week, but most of them
yeah,
were, a couple of days over their
yeah.
best before that were in this. So I don't know at what point they essentially put it on the counter and just say free or 1 penny for
Yeah, I
four
never
week out
see
of date
that.
beer or something. But yeah,
I never see them just getting rid of the stock. I think I don't want to be cynical, but maybe they just think someone will pick up this without thinking or looking at its best before date. I don't know if they ethically can do that. I'm not sure, but it's just yeah. I never see people just having a fire sale for beers because that would literally be me, just like at the end of the month, just going there with a trolley, just scraping all the 1 penny beers in there like
yes,
it's supermarket
yes.
sweep.
Or at what point do they turn around and just say, well, I might as well just take these home and
I
I'll
think that's what
have
they
them
do.
myself.
Yeah, yeah.
How is
Selfish, I say.
share the wealth? Share the wealth.
Yeah.
How's the Fractal?
It smells gorgeous. It smells just like tropical fruits, really.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say probably a bit of guava in there.
Mm.
Yeah, like slightly. It's like it's got a slightly limey guava. Is it like something that's definitely citrus, but like slightly tart citrus, but that will carry through to the taste. But it like makes your nose hairs prickle slightly because just definitely got a bit of sourness in whatever fruit I'm smelling there. But yeah, good looking beer. Completely cloudy, hazy. It's quite light, straw colored. Quite a big head that's sticking around. 1.5, almost 2 finger. Very white frothy head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going anywhere.
Except down.
Exactly down my gullet.
Mm.
Hmm, that kind of you know what? I'm gonna swirl this around.
Okay.
Might be a bit of yeast I haven't got in the bottom
Mm.
because it feels like it's a bit thin and lacking body.
Okay.
And that like slightly tart flavor is almost coming out.
Hmm. Was there much in the can? Did you see anything come out when you swirled?
No. When was this canned?
Years ago.
Yeah, I've had it for probably a couple months.
Okay.
It doesn't taste. There's definitely something a bit sour about it. Like it's got like it's like some hmm like some there's some lactobacillus in there or something. Like
Mm.
it may have gone off a bit because it's tasting more like a lambic
Really?
almost. Not quite, but it feels like it's starting to go that
Mm.
way. Hmm.
How odd. But
Yeah, I think this has
out of
started
date
to go.
beers, do start to sort of sour just that little bit, dependent on
Yeah.
the style that they kind of are. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this is might have started to go, to be honest.
Mm.
That being said, it's still a decent tasting beer. Um, it's going to be hard for me to comment on this, to be honest.
Yeah.
But in terms of it, it's so hard because it's like I don't know if this was the intentional taste of the beer. I don't think it is because just from the other like even the Fractal that I had earlier this year, it didn't taste anything like this.
Hmm.
It was like very much a very fruity, like sweet kind of juice bomb with a bit of bitterness, whereas this is definitely leaning over to that sourness. so it's in that middle part where it's like not sure if it's gone off or not, and it's like if it was like completely sour, I'd be like, okay, this is gone. But yeah, hard for me to comment on this one. So I may just abstain and drink it regardless
That's fair.
because
Absolutely fair.
it's still drinkable.
Good.
I'll
Okay.
say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, fair. I'll move on then to the burnt mill.
Yeah, I might go get another beer because that's
Yeah.
a shame.
Just smash that
But
one
you
back.
carry on.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say like if the beer's bad, unless it's really terrible, and you're not going to enjoy it, at least get a little buzz from it. And like,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
Might as well. Absolutely.
might as well get you used out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this Enigmatic Galaxies has got a nice nose. Very, very light. Bit of tropical fruit. Hard to pick out exactly what is in that mix. It's very sweet on the nose, so it comes across more kind of orangey, almost orange juice, something like that. But there's definitely a little bit more of a tropical hint in there than just orange. Poured with barely any head to it at all, and what there was has dissipated pretty instantly. So it's a little more carbonated in the mouthfeel than the look, but it's an interesting flavour in that sweet nose doesn't come through a huge amount in the flavour. The flavour is actually a lot more bitter than the nose is. It's not. I was going to say it's not unpleasant. I mean, it's not unpleasant, but it's kind of an odd mix of stuff. I think, having those dates on them, I think again this would have been a very different beer back in March than it is now. I'm getting a little bit of the fruit, only a tiny touch of the fruit, and it's then kicking in with this almost ashy bitterness to it, which sits and sits and sits and sits and sits, and that is the lasting taste I'm getting from it. This ashy bitterness that doesn't in any way match the nose. Getting much more of that out of the can, that nice sweeter tropical sort of smell. But yeah, it's when you have a beer that the nose gives you something, then the taste is almost completely different. It's very off-putting, throws you off that expectation in your mind of what you've built up from that nose. And even with that flavour kind of on my palate, it's not unfolding anymore. I'm not getting any more when I'm drinking it. It'd be, when I get to the bottom of it, am I still going to be getting this same flavour profile? That is the best way to currently describe it. That's a very slight bit of tropical fruit at the front, but it almost instantly washed away by this ashy bitterness, and it's not dank. It's kind of a little bit more piney, but with a more floral note in there as well. So whilst I say it's got this ashy sort of flavour, and it's sort of a little harsh on the throat as well, or at least that's how it kind of feels. It does have a pleasant kind of bitterness, a floral, piney bitterness underneath that sort of initial feel to it.
It's nice. I had a siren earlier, and it was just one from Sainsbury's, and it was like, it's actually. I think it lacks a bit of body. I think it's the California IPA.
Yeah.
Lacked a bit of depth to it, but it was a decent bit. It was like hoppy, but it was like, yes, it had so much bitterness as well. It's like, especially for like a supermarket beer, you'd think, maybe their clientele don't like overly bitter beers, but it's just like, this is like a old school, IPA where it's like, yes, they're unapologetically like bitter. So
nice.
Yeah. It's nice that you got a bit of bitterness in your
Yeah,
beer.
absolutely. It is. I definitely would have liked a little bit more of that fruitiness. And again, maybe
Yeah.
if this was a little bit younger when I'd drunk it,
Mhm.
that may have come through a little bit more. You know, maybe balanced out a little bit better with this long, bitter finish that I'm getting from it. Burnt Mill, I think, last year made one of my favourite beers of the year, which again was a big bitter beer. So it's kind of expected that I'm getting that from them. And Track normally kind of sit in the middle between their sort of their fruitier kind of beers and then trying something a little bit different as well, especially in their things like their Gold Top beers, which they've been doing. So it's an interesting mix. But as with the Fractal, I think maybe drank a little bit late for when we
Yeah.
probably should have drank them.
I was just looking at like tasting notes for it. First one on Tapped I saw was like mild tartness, and I was like,
Okay.
this is a bit more than mild because it's literally as soon as it touches my lips, it's you got that sourness. So I think it might be off. But yeah, it's the things that are on other sites do not describe that beer. But
Right.
um, I mean, if this is a gone off beer, then I mean it speaks to how good Equilibrium are, to be honest, because it's like it's still very drinkable, but yeah, I mean I might go get another
No,
beer in a
absolutely.
second.
Yep.
Yeah,
We can
but
we
you
can
vamp.
we can take a break for a moment, at least in podcast uh, circles, to be back in a moment. Right. Well, we'll kick
Right.
back in with
Yeah.
beers. What have you gone to pick up?
I've gone to can't see Beak Brewery. Whose beers I've been enjoying recently, to be fair. This is called Stur, Stur, and it's a 8.5% dipper. Quickly read the flavor text. It
Mm-hmm.
says, in 2016, hopefully not when this beer was found, uh, in 2016, Jay Cover was invited to work as resident artist at a well-known social network in California.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. Anyway. The inevitable Manxman spent 5 weeks using discarded coffee stirrers to create a series of delectable geometric prints. This Citra Simcoe Dipper pays homage to one of the most incongruous chapters in Silicon Valley history, with stirry, whirry flavors of ripe crushed berries, citrus groves, and bucolic summer nights. It's got
Okay.
flaked oats in it, flaked wheat, just as hops. Well, it said earlier it was Citra
Mm-hmm.
Simcoe, so I'm guessing those are the only hops they use. But yeah, uh, screw Facebook.
Yeah.
It smells wonderful. It smells
Good.
what probably the Equilibrium should have
Yes, I
smelled
mean,
like.
I did see when I was in the bottle shop, I almost picked
Mhm,
up a couple of from Beak. Um,
mhm.
I was only buying a few, so I wasn't going nuts, doing a bigger run. Otherwise, I would have. But I don't know whether I saw Stir, but I did see a couple in there that I hadn't seen previously.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really enjoying them, and this is, I mean, the smell is just like dank fruits,
Mm.
dank tropical fruits. It's got that very malty sweetness
Hmm.
aroma to it as well, and that carries through in the taste. It's like it's yeah, that malty sweetness is right there. That's the first thing you notice, and I think with the alcohol as well, it's making it a bit more sweet, but
Mm.
it's also paired back by nice bit of bitterness, a lot of fruit, tons of fruit. It's very dank and like chewy as well.
Ooh,
And it's like,
ooh,
mm,
ooh.
ooh, yeah,
Nice.
it's good. It's a bit too cold because it just came out of the fridge,
Hmm.
so I'm gonna let that sit for a while. But yeah, first impressions is this is great. This is probably what the equilibrium should taste
Yeah.
like. But yeah, Beak Brewery are doing good things, man.
It's
Very much enjoying their output.
just from your description, I'm absolutely going to be looking for that the next time I go into the bowl shop. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna let that warm up a bit because I want to enjoy that. for all it's got.
Nice.
So.
I like how we are, semi-influencers in that we just influence each other in beers and games to buy. So it's like, oh,
Good enough for
good.
me.
It's you send us a code for your game, and you've probably got at least 2 other people buying it because yeah.
Yep.
Talking of games, Lucy. I know you're double parked. You've got 2 beers to smash through. But should we start off chatting about that armoured lady behind you?
Yeah. Yeah, Metroid Dread. It was my most anticipated game. I try not to get excited about games because
Yeah.
the pain when it's just like, okay, this isn't what I was expecting. It kind of gets you down, but ever since this one was announced at, gosh, was it E3? So it's only like
Yes.
4
Like
months
4
ago.
months, 4 or 5 months, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what you want, really. It's like, I mean, I've not played the Prime games, but I could imagine, like, you've been waiting 20 years for Metroid Prime 4, or probably less than that, but like 10, 50, however long it is.
That
And then
game,
it's like,
that game was announced 2 years ago.
no, more than that, I'm sure.
Really, jeez.
Yeah, and I mean, they've reshifted development. They basically restarted it, which I thought that was very candid and honest of them.
Absolutely.
Especially from Nintendo, who are very opaque most of the time. It's like, yeah, it was good to see them actually come out and say, "Well, we've had issues."
Yes.
Even Nintendo, who looks like their games are just made in the reverse of whatever Mount Doom is, just crafted out of the heavens. Yeah, just being honest about it. But it's like, imagine waiting for that and just like, I'm sure when it comes out it'll be great, but just that kind of built-up anticipation, it's like never fun. Whereas something like Metroid, 2D Metroids, they go away from 20 years, and it's like, will we ever get one? Probably not. But yeah, this and they did, and they've brought it back. Mercury Steam, who did Samus Returns, which was a very good game on 3DS. Underrated. I think people were like, the Switch is out, why are you putting out 3DS games? It's like, it's because 100 million people have a 3DS.
Yeah.
So why not? But yeah, very good game, and it's great to see Samus back, and it's great to see that, like, this concludes the story arc, because yes, there is a story in Metroid, believe it or not. Of well, it's a 5th in that kind of like 2D series, and it's bittersweet because it's like, can I still demand for more 2D Metroid games, or has the world just moved on, and they, yes, people are buying this one, but that's by virtue of it being on the Switch, which is just a mega hit anyway. Am I old, Ben? Am I? Is the hand of death just clutching at my shoulder?
I mean, the answer is always yes.
Yeah, true. But are things not marketed? Well, I know that most things are not marketed towards me, but it's like, am I not the demographic anymore? Is it more 3D things that are just, not linked to this, 35-year-old design anymore? It's like, do people not enjoy that anymore? And you look at, the Metroid, how the influence it has. You have things like Hollow Knight and End of These, which was my favourite game this year prior to playing Metroid Dread, and it's like, those will live on. It's just sad to see like the progenitor of that series just like walk off into the sunset.
Absolutely, yeah. You get that more now from those indie developers looking to improve on games that they grew up on, right? Stuff again like Curse of the Moon and those kinds of things, which look to kind of not revitalize the formula, but at least to do something a little bit more modern with those kinds of games. We don't get a 2D Castlevania. We don't get a 2D, apart from remakes. We don't get a new Metroid apart from now.
Yeah.
It seems that maybe with the with the way that Hollow Knight kind of did really really well, and these other games that I wonder whether this has come from the bottom up in Nintendo, that the developers went, look, we know we can absolutely smash this out. We did a good job with the previous game, with the previous 2D Metroid. Give us a shot at doing another one for the Switch,
Yeah.
because here is all of this data on the sales of all of these other games.
Yeah.
And Nintendo went, yeah, okay, rather than it coming from Nintendo's board meeting of what are we going to be releasing
Yeah.
within the next few years. I could be
Yeah.
completely wrong in that, but it feels like these kinds of projects, it's not a Smash, it's not a Kart, it's not something with Mario's face on it. So it does definitely feel like it's come from the bottom up almost.
Yeah, perhaps. I know Miyamoto doesn't care for Metroid that much, and I mean, you can't say a bad word against Miyamoto. Otherwise, God will literally smite you down if you stand. So it's like, but yeah, you know what? I'm most happy for the guy who's like, I forget the gosh, what's his name? Is it Sakamoto? I can't remember what his name is, but like the producer of, most of the Metroid games. It's like, it's nice to be like, oh yes, I've concluded this story, and it's like, I mean, this 35-year-old story. It's like, yes, you can get closure on that series, because I mean, imagine not being able to see that out as the original creator.
Absolutely,
So, yeah, it's a fantastic send off for the series. If this is the last of the 2D Metroids that we'll ever have, and just saying that makes me sad, but it's because I just think this one, even though it is harking back to like, classic Metroid style, you're still getting the same like kind of upgrades, albeit in like different orders, which is the whole point of Metroid and stuff. But like something like the Morph Ball got really late in this game. I don't know if there's any sequence breaking where you could get that early in the game. So it's like, a bit of surprises there, but it's they switched up the formula in the these robots called Emmys, which are I mean, Samus goes to this this nondescript planet with some weird code name, a bunch of numbers and letters like some Twitter bot, and she goes there, and it's like, okay, gotta kill whatever threat is here, and we previously set these AI robots there, but they're now corrupted, so which was always going to be the case, but most of the game is like centered around these like arenas. Like there's specific areas in each of the like kind of bigger areas within the game, and they contain these Emmys, these corrupted Emmys, and it's called Metroid Dread, and it's literally every time you go into one of these areas, you are like stalked and hunted by one of these robots, and it's such a interesting new thing for Metroid. I mean, sort of in Fusion, you had the X parasite following around, but it was very due to the limitations of the Game Boy Advance at that point. It's like very scripted events, whereas like yes, these corrupted robots are set in these very specific areas, but the AI is like, they're hunting you, they're chasing you. It feels very natural and very fluid, and yeah, they like move like the Terminator, just very slow and deliberate at times, and it's genuinely like nerve-wracking, because there's a certain weapon you get, and it's the only thing that can kill these Emmys, and I'll come to the controls later, but
Okay.
I played in handheld mode. Probably be better playing with pro controller. You are like contorting your hands
Really?
in the strangest of ways, and to kill these Emmys, you're basically using one of the analog sticks, and they're very bad on on the Nintendo Switch. And it's like having to aim at this thing and keep your thumb straight when you're, panicking and
Yeah.
nervous. Is like these things kill in like one hit. You get one chance to like parry and counter them because that's back from like Samus Returns. They use that, introduced that mechanic in there. But when you're like just going crazy and it's like, oh, what am I doing? I've forgotten the controls. What is this weird configuration? It's like the analog stick is moving all over the place. It literally becomes like a nerve-wracking affair. And maybe they don't switch up. There's 7 Emmys in the entire game. Maybe they don't switch up that kind of formula too much within that. But I thought it was a really neat addition to it. It's sort of like kind of like a nemesis thing where it's like not persistent throughout the whole game, just in these set areas, but those areas they're usually like the center of most of the bigger areas, so you're always going through them, you're always encountering them, and you don't get the required arsenal to kill them until probably a bit of ways into exploring that area. Sometimes you come back to that area, just the nature of the design, the level design. It's like, but yeah, I thought that was a really neat kind of addition. And
How
I
does
think
that how is that illustrated like on the screen? Do they just suddenly appear? Because I am it's a 2D screen that you move through until you get to the next area. How do they come about? Do they just suddenly appear at the entrance to that area and just move slowly and follow you through?
well, you're in the area because certain doors, are. It's very clear in the fact that it's like, okay, the music changes, the type of door that you're going through. You know when you're in the area, but in terms of the Emmys movement, you can see them on the mini map that's
Right.
always displayed in the top right corner of the screen. But yeah, they move. The AI is very good in the fact that it's like it knows where to move, just to always keep you on edge. And you get certain abilities where you can avoid them, and likewise the Emmys start having different abilities where it's like, okay, this cloak mechanic that Samus has, it's like, that's not going to work. It can still like sense you and stuff like that. So
Right.
they do upgrade in that sense. So they do get a bit more intimidating the more you go through the game. But I think at that point, it's like you face so many of them, you kind of know what you're doing to avoid them. But yeah, it's something where it's like, if there were any more than 7, it would probably wear off that kind of
Yeah.
like sense of dread and everything. But I think for the first couple ones, you really, it's really evocative and really kind of like keeps you on edge. And I mean, it's a series that takes from Alien, so it's like it's it's not quite Alien Isolation where that can just track you wherever, but it's just it's very much I think it draws on that kind of it wears its Alien inspiration on its sleeve, and it's like it's sort of cool that they managed to do that. And I think that was a reason why, because this game was conceived a long time ago, but it's like they shelved it. They probably like 15 years ago or something like that, and it's I think they brought it back because the AI was good enough, because technology's good enough now, and it's a neat idea. It's like you can't, you probably can't tinker with the structure of Metroid too much, because that's not what fans want. They just want a straight up Metroid game. I was like, when I was playing it, I was like, this is so beautiful to look at, and it's like Nintendo with their first party games, they can just get everything out of that crappy little console, that crappy little powered console, and it's literally magic, and it's nuts. I mean, it's not magic. It's obviously very good programming and developers and optimization and everything, but it's it's amazing what they can do with seemingly like a lot going on the screen, and like it runs at 60.
Hmm.
It was probably like once every 4 hours I encountered a frame rate drop, and it
Really?
lasted for like 3 seconds. Yeah, it runs really well, and it's just think it was a 4.1 gigabyte download, and just think, what voodoo are they doing over there? What are they doing? It's nuts, but it. As I was playing, I was just like, this looks beautiful. This is so detailed, and I just thought, you don't need to do this because I would be happy with a 2D pixelated Metroid. But then I'm like, oh, they kind of have to though because it's 2021 and they need to appeal to a bigger audience because historically Metroid hasn't sold. So they have to do all these things, and it's like they have to introduce new mechanics, sort of like the enemies. They have to, improve the combat, which is very good in this game. And so I understand why they did all those things, and it just works. It's 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 very much something that's like very rigidly stuck in that kind of like kind of level design and
Hmm.
fundamentals, but it does enough, just enough, where it's like this is new and interesting, and
Nice.
it's just a cherry on the top for someone who would have been like, just give me a map that fills it to go around, and it's like that's good enough for me. It's a Metro game, good enough. I'd be happy, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and for a silent protagonist, they really like just got Samus's badassery down to like a T, and it's just like she's cool, man. She's a badass. Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
and like some of the suits in there, it's like the last suit you get is genuinely. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but I'm just like, hell yeah, this is awesome. This is like really good like art design,
Mm.
people who truly love Metroid and you know uh just breathe that series probably designed those suits, because she gets new suits even when it's like a very small aesthetic change. The amount of detail and the amount of just cool badassery that is just built into every one of those suits. It's just like, yeah, these are people
Nice.
who understand Metroid.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's really good. It's
Good. Good.
it's it's fantastic. It doesn't. If you're not a fan of Metroid games, which I wouldn't recommend it to you already.
Mhm.
It's like, unless you're very much into that series and very much into that kind of level design. And I say the level design. This is so intricate. It's like when I thought of like Ender Lilies, which was a very good game. As I said, my favorite prior to Metroid Dread.
Mhm.
I thought of the level design in that, and it's like when you look at the map, it's like these very long rectangles. There's one big rectangle with this part of the world, and then there's this very big rectangle with this part of the world, like adjacent to it or up above it and or below it and stuff like that. Whereas with Metroid, all these rooms and areas are so interconnected, and it's just like, okay, because I thought, yeah, you can knock out a Metroid game in 2 hours, 2 years, It's just like, but no, when you look at like the level design, how intricate it is, and how much design and attention to detail that would take, especially when people are like sequence breaking it and going in
Mhm.
different routes. It's just it's just mastery of that kind of
Nice.
you know, it's just a skill that I couldn't even comprehend. It's just like I'd be like, here's one room, and there's another.
So,
Go back before between.
from like from your comments, from other comments I've seen online, from the reviews that are coming out from Metroid Dread,
Yeah,
it
I
seems
haven't
like
I
an
haven't looked at
absolute
any of it.
seems like an
Hmm,
absolute hit. Um,
good. Yeah.
but if
I saw that it sold well,
Mhm.
and I saw that there was an issue with people and the accessibility and difficulty, which we'll come on to later. But I haven't really seen many reviews because I just went on a complete media blackout with this one. So
Okay,
good to see it's been well
yeah,
received.
yeah, yeah, completely. Um, but if you're new, like if you've picked up a Switch it's your first Nintendo console. You're in your early 20s or something, and you haven't really paid attention to Metroid. With this being the culmination of everything that has happened in the 2D Metroid games, is there a way for those people to go back and play all of the previous games? Can they? It might be incredibly convoluted in that 1 and 2 are through the online service because that's because you get to play older games.
1 and Super.
It's a case that like maybe only 2 of them are available for people to be able to go back and play, and then they're sat there going, well, how do I do this now I've got to go and buy myself a 3DS and try and find an old copy of other game. The insanity of Nintendo.
It is the insanity of them. Yeah.
It feels like with the release of Metroid Dread, you kind of think any other company would have been like, and here is a remastered version of all the other games for you to play.
Yes.
And again, Konami have just put out a remastered version of some of the Castlevania games. You can play others in other ways from previous remasters and things. And you kind of feel suddenly there's news that Konami are like, yes, we are actually developing a Metal Gear game and a Castlevania game and a Silent Hill game. Like rumours that this is going on at Konami. But you can see the steps they'll take. Yeah, get people interested in Castlevania again, re-release them, remaster them, and then we hit them with a announcement that we're bringing out a new one. But Nintendo's just like, just make a game. Just make a game.
Yeah. I think Nintendo are very much they're so interesting. Where I think that their philosophy is, let's not make a game that is you need a prerequisite to play. I think they're just like, let's make this game. This could be somebody's first game of the series or first game, period. Let's make it in, not a vacuum, but it's like, let's make it's like sort of like their approach to achievements, where it's like, we don't want achievements in our fun. We want in our game. We want the fun to be there. We want people to seek out 100%, not for a pointless achievements, but because they want to do that, because the games are designed to be fun enough to do that. And it's like, I've probably 100%ed more Nintendo games than most other games, just because it's like there's no arbitrary achievement after it. It's just because their games are fun to like 100%. And it's like that kind of philosophy. I think that's what follows through with like, we don't need anyone to play Fusion or 3 or 2 or no, but it is quite funny. But I think with something like Metroid, it's like the story doesn't matter. Like most Nintendo games don't have story, or if they do, it's something as stupid and convoluted as Zelda that it's just like doesn't make any sense anyway.
And Zelda very self-contained per game, really.
Yeah. And I like that about them. It is frustrating though, because they are brilliant games, and it's like, if people want to pursue them, it shouldn't be like, I have to go through this very archaic way of finding them, like the Wii U, which was archaic the day it came out. So it's just like, or I have to go through an emulator, and people may not want to do that morally, or they don't know how to use an emulator or anything like that. So it's sad to see with a company such as, with the legacy as Nintendo, where it's like, that should just be available, not for any cynical reason, like people, were making a new game, go play the previous things, but just because it's like, you've got such a great legacy, celebrate it, don't hide it away in stupid ways when it's like, Metroid Fusion is probably like 5 megabytes and put it on anything at this point. It's bad.
There's a meme of a screenshot from like the original Mario game, which says the original Mario game was 4 megabytes or something like that, and this this JPEG is
Mm.
400 megabytes or
Mhm.
something like
Mm.
that. Absolutely
It's nuts.
ridiculous in that sort of sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, Nintendo curation.
Yeah,
It's a
I
weird
think it's just
space.
emblematic of the entire history, like not history, industry where um preservation is a real big problem.
Mm.
And I mean, even for the stuff Microsoft are doing, I mean, they can only really do that with the things that they're given the license to do,
Hmm.
and their first party output. And it's like it's it takes a lot of people. I think someone like Phil Spencer at the top, he obviously cares about preservation, but you probably have to be at the top or near it and enough voices to actually care about that,
Completely.
where it's actually something that's done. So yeah, it's sad. But
Yeah.
last thing on um Metroid Dread
Hmm.
is um just from what I saw of the few reviews that I looked at, which are very much surrounding like accessibility. And
Hmm.
I did go into the menus, like I can't remember at what point in the game, but it's just like I was thinking, oh, I wonder if there's any options to remap the controls. I think it was um doing the speed boost. It was either the morph ball or the speed boost that I was looking for the extra controls on. Because the speed boost, you have to like tap in I think it's the left stick in order to engage a speed boost. Whereas in like any other Metroid game, once you get the speed boost upgrade, as soon as you start running, after you've built up enough speed, it'll just automatically go into the speed boost. Whereas in this, you have to like tap the thing in. I was like, I wonder if there's just a control just to do, automatic speed boost,
Yeah.
or it was either that or the morph ball. I was like, what do you mean I have to press ZL to do a morph ball? I just want to double tap down like I always have. Unfortunately, you can just double tap
Nice.
down and do it. But anyway, I was like looking at the options, and there's nothing. I
Mm.
was like, I went into control options, and it was like, here are the controls. We're showing you them. It's like, no, I want to know if you can remap them or change them or have a different layout or something, because literally every button on the controller is used. Like everything, apart
Yeah.
from like maybe, one or two on the directional pad.
Hmm.
Everything else is used. And it's like, I mean, I wrote a tweet about it where I was saying like it's quite ironic and just sad and unforgivable that the company who advertise themselves as the fun for all the family don't and never have accessibility options
Mm.
in any of their games. And it's disgusting, frankly. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's
It's an odd stance for them to kind of take almost that they have just omitted this, which is becoming much more prevalent in lots and lots of games. I remember last year when The Last of Us 2 came out,
mm,
they did a whole video on
yeah,
just the accessibility options, saying we want this to
so
be
many.
as accessible as possible to everybody. And I know that what's his name? Steve
Oh yes,
Saylor.
the yeah.
Steve Saylor
I think that's his name.
gave
The
it came out basically
blind
and did
gamers. Yeah.
yes, and did a video about Deathloop, about how much he
Mm.
wanted to play the game, but how the accessibility options were lacking in Deathloop, and but we never, or at least I never see anything about Nintendo games. Like, is it for some people? Is it
Because
just
there's
because they
none.
don't do anything? Are people like, well, I'm just not going to have it. That's it. Nintendo, they're done for me. I cannot play
It's.
their games.
I mean, this is a very complex game in terms of its control. So some of its other games, like something like Mario and stuff like that. Mario obviously has an assist mode and stuff like that.
Right.
But you know, you should be able to remap the controls in any game, in my opinion.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what game it is, because there's always a button to just reset to default if you put the jump button on all of the all of the
Every
face
button
buttons.
is
And it's
jump.
just like, yeah, yeah, always an option to reset to default. So it's like, just give players that option. Nintendo are so stringent in that and just unmovable. It's just sad. And even though Metroid Dread is a game I love, it's good that people are speaking out about it. Because this will be like so many people's first foray into the Metroid series, and there's there's talk of difficulty, which is fine, but the fact that difficulty is a strange one, because it's like, yes, make your game as difficult as you want, but if you're not giving people the option to do simple things as like remap the controls, because they physically can't play the game that with that controller like kind of input system that you've made, that's not anything to do with difficulty, that's accessibility. And it's like, yes, these games should be accessible for everybody. So yeah, that's a shame, and it's like, it's not anything that affected me, but I'm fully aware that I may not be able to play these types of games for my entire life.
Yeah.
It's like, even if I'm coming from a selfish point of view, it's like, I want games to get more accessible, because by the time I'm decrepit in 5 years, I want to be able to play these games. But it's the lack of any options. It's like, you go into it's something like an indie game. You're like, okay, they've probably just got this out the door. Small team, small budget, don't have the time, even though there have been studies that say, like, getting accessibility features in your game is not very expensive. And it'll probably help you sell more. But you can understand it, but someone as big as Nintendo, something that's been, as I said, optimized to hell, runs at 60 FPS, is 4.1 gigabytes. They've done a lot of work in the tech of it. Why can't they just add more features?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a shame. It did. I'm lucky because it didn't mar my experience of it. It's like, I'm good at these games anyway. It wasn't really challenging for me. There were some things where, okay, yes, I died a couple times, but it's like the boss is a really big tell, and it's like very obvious to me, and it's like, this is not my first rodeo. It's not my first Metroid, but for someone who it is. And it's like, it's obviously an adult series. It always has been. It's always appealed to adults more than children. But if someone wants to play Metroid for the first time, if it kicks their ass, fair enough. But if it kicks their ass because they physically can't play the game because the controls are so complex and you can't change that, then that's a problem. So.
Completely agreed. A good point for us to finish on there. Mostly positive chat about Metroid Dread.
I love it.
Good. I'm glad. I'm absolutely glad. I'm so happy for you that it's come out and it has been an absolute hit for you. So,
it would have broken my soul.
And I could have seen this week being very different if it had have been a poor game. Just like, no, I don't want to chat. Just let me drink. I'll just smash these beers, but I don't care. Let's move on. All right, I'm gonna open up a second beer.
Yeah.
I am having a beer that is slightly lower in percentage than the 8% Enigmatic Galaxies. I'm going to drink 7.4%, so not that much lower, but an Arbor Breakfast Stout. It's a coffee and chocolate oatmeal stout. Silky smooth oatmeal stout with evocative notes of coffee and luxurious bittersweet chocolate. Contains stuff, just the allergens on there. This was brewed about a week ago. The guy in the shop as I was picking things, he came over with the box and was like, "Hey, dude, I've just got these in. I know you drink Arbor. Do you want? Like, yes, thank you, perfect, excellent. So yeah, brewed about a week ago.
Very nice.
It's a
There's
rebrew.
nothing like fresh, is there?
I get
Nothing
completely,
like it. Yeah.
completely. As the previous beers we've just drank. Oh no, breakfast stout everywhere. The can
Oh
cracked and
dear.
it just popped out
Yeah.
the top. But yeah, it's a rebrew. It's something that they've done previously. My phone is now going absolutely nuts because I got stout on it. I'm sure I've had it. I'm sure I must have had
Yeah,
the beer previously.
it rings a bell. Or am I thinking of the one in the cream can?
The
No,
creme
yeah,
something.
I might be thinking of that one.
In the cream can, yeah. So this one's classic Albert, just in a black can, but with a creamy font and leaf,
Yeah.
tying it in quite nicely. But I mean, just
Oh, it's still poured well.
it poured
Even though you
very
spilled
well.
half of
Yes,
it.
it was only a tiny drop that flew out.
That's fair.
Oh, that's a big nose. Lots of coffee on that. Absolutely loads of coffee on there.
Nice. I had one of those siren. They've done their barista um range again recently.
Yeah.
I think I had one of those. That was nice. I think it was the Mucha Mocha. Very, very, very coffee.
Nice. Oh, and this is very coffee as well. What does it say? Coffee and chocolate oatmeal stout.
Okay.
It's lovely. It's lovely.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite light in body. It's not viscous. It's not thick. It's very, very light. It's got with it being an oatmeal stout, it's got a slight bit of body to it. But it rolls you through all of these lovely flavours. The cold kind of coffee is there. The chocolate, not just sort of cocoa, but it's almost a milk chocolate. There's a slight sweet hint to it as well. And it sort of blends both of those. It's this lovely roasted sort of coffee, this nice sweeter chocolate, but both of them are so close to each other in sort of flavour that it isn't one flavour. It's kind of this lovely spread, but that sticks quite close, so you feel like you're getting lots of flavours, but it gives a very well presented hit. It's kind of like, here is the flavour, bam bam bam, you get everything in that straight away. It doesn't, the flavors don't flow into each other. It's just, here's the coffee, here's the chocolate. You're gonna, every time you sip, you might get one over the other just a little bit more.
And you have it for breakfast.
Of course, absolutely. Have it instead of your orange juice.
I was just, yeah, like, I guess, what did you say, 7.4%?
Yes.
That does seem like the range for breakfast there, yeah.
Yeah, get you going
Fair
for the
enough.
day. Yeah, completely. Yeah, it is, as it says on the can, it is silky smooth.
Yeah.
That sort of coffee, that roasted note, and that chocolate does, after a couple of sips, start to edge a little bit more towards bitter. I think I didn't quite pick up on it because of the previous beer, because of that being a bigger bitter beer. I hadn't quite picked up on just that little hint of bitterness kind of towards the end of this. So it has that sweetness, has those roasted notes, and it does hit in with a bitter note as well, which doesn't like stick around. The lasting note is that slightly sweeter chocolate, but also this not horrible cold coffee, but
Mm.
it does leave you with that a little bit of roasted coffee as well on there.
Yeah.
Like those are the things that stick around. It just is like, here are the flavors that they're doing their thing. Here's a little bit of bitterness, and that's just going to round out this big taste, and then we're going to nicely leave you with these lasting flavors. And so, whilst it's slightly dry,
Mm.
I don't feel like I have to reach back for it, because there's this lovely lingering taste afterwards. But I won't
Is there
reach
any
for it.
lactose in it, or that
Um,
bit of sweetness to the chocolate, or is it just
no, in the allergens,
okay?
it's only malted barley, wheat, and oats.
Okay, just oats.
So
Right.
yeah. I did have a milk stout from Left Handed Giant
Mm.
yesterday, something like
Okay.
6.5%, and that was lovely. That's one of the best milk stouts I've had
Oh,
for
really?
a
Oh,
while.
nice.
I cannot remember what it's called. Something light.
Yeah, because 6% is probably a bit more than I'd expect for a milk stout, but yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Nice.
Absolutely lovely.
Mm.
And you wouldn't go wrong with, just wandering to whatever shop in Bristol, or hopefully whatever city you're in that can get Left-Handed Giant Arbor, and picking up that light Left-Handed Giant milk stout, and
Yeah.
this breakfast stout from Arbor. Two very different beers, but I feel like beers that would also, if you just want a couple of beers in an evening, having that Left-Handed Giant first and then having this Arbor just after would sit perfectly together
Mm.
for an evening. They would go hand in hand
Nice.
really, really nicely.
We don't usually do beer pairings on the
No, we
show.
don't. Um,
Speaking of left-handed giants, I have a
oh,
very big ghostly stout
you've
from
got the
them.
big one.
I do, the biggie, but I'll just talk about this Beak Brewery beer first
Yeah,
because it's at the perfect temperature, and yeah, I think if you pick this up, you will not be disappointed. It's, as I say, it's got that sweetness from the malt and a little bit of the alcohol. It's very fruity, very tropical.
mm,
It's got that chewy dankness to it, and yeah, it's very good. It's got a nice bit of body to it as well. It's just really good.
good, good.
It just smells divine as well. Like, mm, yeah, that's the top beer. Yeah, and you can tell it's like a bit of a stronger beer.
Hmm.
And you just think it's gonna creep into that like very sweet, very alcoholic taste at the end, but it just tapers off so quickly, and it's like you want to go for another sip, but it's like those flavors is probably what just lets you just let it linger and sit for a while, so you're happy just to like nurse it slowly. But this is one that can go either way. It's like I love the taste of this. I can just knock it back in seconds, but
Yeah,
you can also just like let it sit, and like it has been sitting, like that aroma hasn't gone, like the slight hoppiness is still there, like everything's still firing on all
good.
cylinders, so you can just easily just this is a good end of the night beer. It's like I just want one more,
Mmm,
you know, just want one more to last me, and this, yeah, it's really good.
good.
Where a Beak Brewery from again?
Oh,
Let me have a look.
I don't know.
Uh, Lewis.
Lose.
L-E-W. Yeah, Lewis.
Lose. Yeah.
Lewis. BN 8 6JL.
There.
BN says Bournemouth. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't know actually. Where is BN? BN8. What are we looking at? B.
Down in
I
England.
can't. I
Where
can't
in
even
England?
fucking look
East
because
Sussex.
my phone's died again. The internet on my phone's gone. So
It's alright. East Sussex. That's where they are. So not far. Well,
Brighton,
not far from.
BN, right? Brighton, then I
Yeah,
guess.
it's
Yeah.
Brighton. Yeah,
Hmm.
not far from Bournemouth. I was
I
in
mean,
the area.
yeah.
I was in the same country. So good enough.
Same
On
coast.
GeoGuessr,
Same
I
coast.
would.
It's fine.
On GeoGuessr, might get couple of points.
Yeah.
But there you go.
20, maybe. Nice.
But yeah,
Good.
to go there. Just go to Brighton anyway. Love it.
Shall I chat a little bit? I know you're going to open up that left-handed giant, perhaps
Oh,
at some point.
yeah. I might just quickly read what it is.
Mm.
It's no flavour to it, so very quick one. It's
Standard
called
left-handed
We Are
giant.
Ghosts on the Moon. It's an imperial stout with honeycomb, maple, and pecan. 12%. Additions are. I don't call it additives. They call it additions now.
Mm.
A nicer way of saying it. Lactose, honeycomb, maple syrup, and pecan nuts. Or pecan nuts. Lactose, yes. 440ml can. Left handed giant. So yeah, I'm gonna crack that open. Been looking forward to this one because it's a big beefy stout and needing those in this kind of weather.
Absolutely. Oh, it fizzed. It fizzed. Oh. But that's all right.
Yep. Another fizzer.
Once you've poured, we can chat a little bit about the left-handed giant, because my topic this week's got a little bit light, mostly because I didn't get much of a chance to play the Battlefield 2042 beta, because they put it on at a stupid time.
Timed beta, was it?
Yeah, it's a timed beta. It's done. It started at 8 a.m. on Friday and ended at 8 a.m. on Sunday.
Well, then you're a busy man, going to Legoland and everything.
But exactly.
Most people have their weekends to play games.
Mate, I was knackered when we got back from Legoland. Drive, it's only 2-hour drive, but yet doing that.
At Windsor.
Yes, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So doing that, wandering around for the entire day, driving back, and getting home, like I'll crack a beer. I'm ready for bed. I'm done. I'm finished. So I didn't get a chance to do it then. I didn't get a chance to play it Friday night. I did get maybe an hour with it during the work day on Friday. It took a little bit of time to just to experience it. And my main takeaway after playing it on the PS4 was, this is interesting. I should probably buy this for PC, because the PS4 version, and it's a beta, so there's always going to be problems, but the PS4 version ran like shit.
It seems like one of those where they're trapped in the generation. I think this would have happened regardless whether new consoles were hard to find or whatnot, but it's very much seems like, because wasn't there a thing where it's like, PS5 players can't play PS4 players, but they rolled that back, and
I don't know. There was some cross-play options within that, and I don't know whether I was playing against just PS4 players or everyone that could play. But I thought I'd test that. I enjoy Battlefield. It's a good shooter. I didn't play 5. Older listeners of the podcast will know that Adel and I have talked about Battlefield 1 at length, because we played an absolute ton of that game about 5 years ago now. But the reason I wanted to jump into this beta, rather than say like the Call of Duty Vanguard beta that's kind of happened and those kinds of things, Battlefield has always felt just a little bit better for me. And I won't say that this beta doesn't evoke that, right? There definitely is feelings there that some of the guns are weighty, that the abilities and things that the different operators, because they've gone in a slightly more hero-y kind of way. You know, you can pick, rather than picking assault, medic, and support, you know, those kinds of things. You sort of pick your hero who has various abilities, but then you can pick different loadouts as well. So whilst you might pick the support guy who has a ammo pack, or someone who has a turret, or someone who has the defibrillator, or someone who, you know, these various different kind of class abilities, you can then pick whatever gun you kind of want to run through with. It's not like support only gets to use LMGs or assault rifles. You can mix and match this a little bit, and that felt good.
Nice.
Because I liked that variety. I liked the ability to mix up what I was trying to do. Absolutely.
That's why I never got on with Battlefield, amongst other reasons. But it's like you felt that you were very like jarred into that kind of different class. I think Call of Duty's gone that way recently. I think that I like the Pick 12 system or whatever they had in Call of Duty, where it's just like, or going before then, like Black Ops or whatever, it's just like pick whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, because I'm a freaking super soldier, I should be able to do whatever
Absolutely.
I want. If I want an LMG, let me have it.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. So I appreciate that change of direction that they have taken. I say change of direction. I didn't play 5. I don't know what 5 brought up or changed to the formula. So
was that the World War
2?
One?
Yes.
So what? I know there's no campaign in this one. What are the guns? Just anything, or is it literally back to World War II?
No. So in this one, it's set in 2042. So
it's 2042.
Yes,
not 1942.
yes, 2042. A riff on Battlefield 1942, but this one is kind of modern, but slightly in the future. So there are a couple of things which set it, 20 odd years, 21 years, no, 2042, 21 years in the future, that you can pull in little like robot dogs, these Boston Dynamics 4-legged dogs that do the little dance at the Super Bowl and things like that. Absolutely. And you can call one of these in to the battlefield, and they've just got a machine gun on their back, and they will constantly shoot at you when someone has brought one in. And really hard to blow up. You've got movable and deployable turrets. So it's kind of taken that step into the future slightly, but much more in a modern kind of way. So it's kind of batting on the familiar, but almost saying, it's like Metal Gear Solid 4. Okay. It's like we're slightly in the future. We have a little bit of extra kind of tech. It's sort of, what military stuff is now. I don't know what fucking military stuff is now, but they're almost kind of sitting in that sort of space. Like, these things, the guns. You've played enough video games set in the modern era to know what stuff kind of is, that we're just pushing it that little bit to give you a few extra kind of options. And all of that is great. All of that is fine. It makes it very easy to pass. It's quick to pick up. Everything feels good. The guns feel different and weighty and all of these kinds of things. But on the PS4, it's absolute dog shit.
Yeah, that's a shame. But yeah, it feels like one of those where it's like, the developer says, "Look, we just want next gen. We want
Mm,
push." It feels like almost a reset for Battlefield. Minus the
completely.
campaign. It feels like just even evoking 1942, and it feels like a refresh in there. But the publishers probably said, "Look, ain't enough of those out there. Ain't enough
Absolutely.
PS5 out there.
Absolutely.
Make it for current
Yeah,
gen,
it
and it's going to be a
completely.
compromise thing on that, regardless." So yeah,
What it's something like, what is there, 80 million PS4s out, and maybe then 10 million PS5s. So they've gone, well,
yeah.
you have to make it for those other people, and the same for Xbox. 80 million Xbox Ones roughly, and a similar number of next gen Xbox kind of consoles, which again they're then splitting slightly between, but that's fine for a kind of optimization within a generation. Dealing with things, because you're then dealing with minimum specs on a PC versus
Hmm.
recommended or optimum specs on a PC. It's that same kind of thing with this current Xbox generation. But to then jump back and be like, right, don't run as fast, can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. There were times when I was running around, I'd loaded in and I didn't have a gun. The asset for the gun hadn't loaded in my hand for about 60 seconds.
Oh my
So I
god.
was I was literally, you'd see the hand, and then I'd point, and both hands would come up, and you'd have that, but there was no gun. Still shooting. I could still shoot. I could do everything, but there was just no gun. Very, very off-putting.
Yeah,
Some of
that's
the and again, things like texture loading and that sort of stuff in a beta you sort of expect, but this felt really, really raw. It took time for all of those textures to load in. Some stuff didn't seem to even load in at all during my kind of play. And I think
that's a
the
shame.
and part of the limitation as well is that there was only one map, one mode, so you just played the same thing over and over again, and really it's only the operators, the guns, that kind of thing that you're switching between. But the map that I played felt good. It's talking about map design. It felt crafted in a way that they have played this to death,
Yeah.
and they've gone, right, here are our choke points. Here's where
Hmm.
people are going to fight over. There's
Lame.
they've got this game mode now, which is kind of like a conquest mode, where you've got 6 points
Right.
split into 3 sectors, so 2 points per sector. If you hold both points, you're racking up. You basically hold those, and that is a
Hard
benefit
point
to you. So
is what we call in Call of Duty hard
yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you then hold 2/3 of them, and you're doing better. You hold almost all 3 of them, if you've got 5 points or something like that. Obviously, you're kind of like dominating and stuff. But they've gone, right, what we're going to do is we're going to make these 2 points in sector 1, at least on this map. One of them is at the bottom of this building, and one of them is at the top of the building. So there's a bit of verticality there. In the middle sector, one of them is here and one of them is
The
here.
evolution.
Yes. Well, I'll come on to that in a second.
God.
One of the points is in the north, and one of them is in the south, and you have this very open overground route to go to. So if there's anyone sniping, you can easily be picked off. Or there's this underground tunnel you can go through, but you're absolutely going to come into a massive brawl in this tunnel. And this is where a lot of my fighting kind of happened. I loved being in that tunnel and popping around the corner and shooting at people. All this third sector, which is just 2 points, kind of disparately away from each other, but one which was slightly up here, one which was down here. So you took this one and then you assaulted the one that was above. That was a really good point to defend and that kind of thing. And they do lean around that levolution kind of thing, because the map had 2 rockets on.
Right.
I don't know if both rockets could fire. I don't think they could. Maybe only one of them could, because you can have like on this side, in Sector C, one of the points, which is right by one of the rockets, you can. I don't know how it happened. I didn't play enough of the game to understand that, but this rocket can fire.
Okay.
But it doesn't fire off into space. It misfires and basically explodes, which then throws a load of debris across the landscape. But that then creates different points. You can then, rather than having to go into here and walk up the steps or climb the ladder, you can be over here and climb up the debris to get to the point. So it does change that space.
Oh, interesting.
In addition to that, and I thought that was good.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's a different way to be able to kind of approach the level. They're mixing it up a little bit. It'd be interesting to see if you go through that map and that isn't triggered, how that's triggered, whether it's triggered early, late, and it will change it as you're playing. But also as we're playing, this hurricane rolls in.
I've seen this. I've heard about it. Well, I haven't seen it in action. I've heard about it. But can we do it after I've been to the toilet? 'Cause
Of course, absolutely.
already 2 beers in.
Yep.
So vamp again.
Please.
Show them your Lego.
I'll show them some more Lego. The same Lego, actually. It's always the same Lego, apart from the new thing. And those of you who were listening earlier may have heard I like a tumbler, but I've got nowhere to put it. I might put another shelf here, just above, the same distance, of course, but put a little shelf there for some more Lego and stuff. And you also see my Final Fantasy PlayStation discs, all 3 of the PlayStation 1 games that I found in the loft the other day. I mean, I knew I had them, but we were just going through some boxes. It does detract a little bit because Ganondorf is the same colour as the fire spray, and then Kratos is lost behind here. But we'll see. It's always a changing, moving shelf of things. My architecture books on the side. Some Star Wars Lego. It's always Star Wars Lego as well. I fucking love Star Wars. That's why. And the Lego is pretty cool. Before Lucy returns, just in case any of you are interested in Lego news, I did see that the lists for Star Wars Lego have been released for the first 6 months of next year, and there's a new ATST from The Empire Strikes Back that's going to be released, and I think that might be my next one. A nice ATST just sat here on the shelf, just looking down towards everything.
Which one is that again? The AT-AT is that big.
The AT-AT is
one
the
on 4
four-legged
legs,
one.
right?
The ATST is the two-legged.
Oh, a two-legged
two-legged
biped
one.
Yes.
Yeah,
that
there's
one's
a
cool,
very
yes.
expensive Mandalorian
Oh,
version, which I kind of thought, yeah. But this Empire Strikes Back one supposedly is going to be at a slightly lower price point. So I think I might add to my collection when that one comes out. Very grey. Everything else is, nice yellow, kind of like Starfighter. The fire sprays, lovely reds and greens and greys. The white of the X-wing, very grey. The Empire things. So, but anyway,
they are very well made and iconic. Though. Like,
yes.
I can't even remember the Star Wars Lego I had. I may have an X-wing from 20 years ago. I can't remember. Anyway,
I did read a good article. I did read a good article about the changes because of the fire spray. That there was previously the Slave One Lego set, and them talking about the different iterations of these and how actually Star Wars Lego can only ever go through different iterations. The Mandalorian allowed Lego and Disney to sell different versions of things, right? New models, new ships and things. But now, at a point where there's no more Star Wars coming out, they can only iterate. So next year, they repeat a couple of models, but they refine them a little bit. They make them a bit more easy to build. They maybe put a few more pieces in and make them a bit more fluid or look better. But then at some point they'll return back to the X-Wing and make it slightly different to this one, which is slightly different to the one from 5 years ago, which is slightly different to the one from 10 years ago. Yeah.
it's just a machine.
It completely is just a machine, just like Battlefield.
Yes, tell me about the hurricane.
So the hurricane, right? I didn't know this was a thing. And suddenly I'd died. I'd been shot, and I had to respawn. And I'm like, right, where shall I respawn? What the
In the
fuck's that?
hurricane. I have a
Well,
hurricane.
there's suddenly this big red circle just floating through the map very, very slowly. And I'm like, oh wow, that's a big old weather system coming in. And I spawned in across the map somewhere else, not really that near it, but I already noticed a change. Things were a bit grayer, they clouded over a little bit more. And actually, being in that, once I'd got across the map and I was fighting other people, and that I don't know how it moved across the map, but it felt very, very different. It was a hurricane. It was like standing in a hurricane. You can see almost nothing. Like, your visibility is limited. That fog of war just comes in, and you're hammered by this rain effect constantly over you. So it limits your visibility. It makes things a little bit more difficult to see, and that was brilliant. I thought this is fantastic. This is an excellent addition to this. To change things up, to make things more difficult, but also because it's a hurricane and there was lots of thunder and things going on, it also made my minimap glitch.
Alright,
So
okay, that's cool.
yeah,
That's
so
really
it
cool.
also had an impact, not just visually, but also then on how I could preempt where people potentially were. And I use the minimap a lot in Battlefield. I'm like, right, I'll set up my turret here. Cool. I know that it's picked someone up. Oh, great. They've shot at it. I can see them over here. Brilliant. I can just flank and do this and do this and do that. And using the minimap on the new Battlefield felt good, as it has previously kind of done. So to suddenly have that taken away from you was an interesting twist to sort of the standard kind of play. And I think I played maybe 4 games, maybe five. But I know I won 3, or was on the winning side for 3 of them, and I lost 1. And the one that I lost in was the one with the hurricane. And I don't know, I like Battlefield. I'm pretty good at it, and I was getting, because it changes again how it scores things. So it comes up at the end and says kills and assists. Mm-hmm. So I was getting, like mid-20s every kind of game for those for those things.
When I play Battlefield, it's 0 kills, 1 assist, 89 deaths.
Well, and that's me playing Call of Duty these days. But Battlefield,
I'm pretty good at Call of Duty.
Yeah, exactly. See how it's different? It's different. I felt that during I lost during that hurricane, and it was, again, I didn't have anywhere near as many kills because I was reliant a little bit more on the minimap, on locating people, on spotting people from a distance and kind of pot-shotting them away and things like that. And suddenly all of that was limited, and I did much worse. And that isn't...
Did the hurricane change the terrain, like you said, the debris the last time? Because that... Or would that be like stacking to...
I don't know. Lots of the... so on one of these points, it's inside, or it's just by a hangar, and all of the walls can be blown out. It's got like retractable garage doors on it, and they can be up or down and things, and so like a tank can turn up and just blow the walls out and things. So I don't know whether the hurricane did any kind of level damage to change that kind of aspect. Does it roll through, just completely destroy a building, and that changes the dynamic of it? I'm not sure.
It's so crazy how they were talking about Levolution probably back in 20... Was it for Battlefield 4?
Battlefield 4. Battlefield 4. Yeah.
20, probably even 2012 at that point, or 2013, whenever they...
yes, it's got to be about eight years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy how it's like they were promising that technology for that generation. It's like no, and even now we may not still be there. But yeah,
Hmm.
the that sounds cool. Like just the fact that it's like it feels unpredictable. Can the hurricane
Hmm.
happen in any level, or is it just specific that to that one? I know you
Again,
only
I
played
don't
one
know.
level
Yeah,
demo.
with only playing one level, I don't know. And is it across all game modes, or is it only during the bigger kind of game modes?
Yeah,
Again, with it being such a limited beta, I don't know what's on offer in
because
terms of a full package.
the sort of hurricane thing is the thing that I've seen people talk about the most. So it's like if that is only a variable in one kind of map, or it's very scripted and very set piece, that seems like a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
It seems like it, but that goes back to what you were saying with like PS4 version didn't run that well. It seems like something that could be achieved with PS5 level technology, where
Mm.
it's like this is not scripted. This is very much a can happen anytime on
Yep.
any level. It may not happen at all. It seems like that's something that the PS5 could take advantage of, but like compromised visions with the PS4 version, which is the version that more people will play. Let's be
Yes.
honest, and it's rough, isn't it? I'd
It
hate to be a
is
developer.
completely, and I suppose it very much depends on without having a campaign, which multiplayer often pulls maps from. So normally it's like, here's the campaign, here are the maps that are from the campaign, so you're a little bit familiar with it. These are the set locations that we've been to. Without having that, they've had to go, right, we're going to location 1, location 2, location 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, however many maps there's going to be. Not all of those will be within the tropics, you would imagine, to have a hurricane as a weather effect.
Flooding, yeah.
Flooding, a bad
Drop bears in
storm.
Australia. Yeah.
They could do stuff in Russia, and it just be like snowstorms and things. They can replicate the effect that it gave with kind of other weather systems. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if it is it's just hurricanes everywhere. This might just appear, or whether
In
suddenly it go,
in Sussex,
yeah.
East Sussex.
You're in East Sussex, you sat in the tap room, you're drinking your beer, and suddenly there's this Russian invasion which you've got to fight off, right? But there's also a hurricane at the same time.
An earthquake or a volcano.
So yeah, it will be, again, it'll be interesting to see all these different things, but the game comes out in like a month.
Yeah,
So I don't know what previews we're getting before that.
I'd imagine there will be one final preview. So playing this, does it evoke that kind of fun that you had? Like, I mean, how long does your relationship with the series go? I mean, I know
So
you played a
back to
lot.
Battlefield 3.
Oh, okay.
So
Because
I played a lot of Battlefield 3.
mhm,
I played before that. I played COD Black Ops.
mhm.
Um, what was the one after Black Ops?
Modern Warfare
Modern Warfare 3. Yeah.
3.
So I played Modern Warfare 3, and I think that's where I then jumped to Battlefield.
Okay.
And I played Battlefield 3. I played Battlefield 4. I played Battlefield 1, ridiculously titled. But after Battlefield 1, which is when Evelyn was born, and I played a lot with Adel and other friends, and we had a good group of people playing. Suddenly, Battlefield skipped a year. I'm like, okay, we'll play a bit of the Star Wars Battlefront, which came out in its stead. Are we feeling it? Are we really playing Battlefield 5? Nah, we won't. We'll kind of skip this. But I think this kind of gets me back into it a little bit. I played a bit of Warzone, Call of Duty Warzone, with friends last year and things, and I enjoyed that. And I'm not a fan of Battle Royale. It's not really the kind of game I want to play. So then getting back to Battlefield feels like they're not just going, here's a battle royale, although they did do that with 5. Whereas Call of Duty very much feels like, here is a new game set in a new thing, but we're still going to let you play Warzone and everything will lead into that. Warzone is our big thing. It's free to play. Great. But I think this pulls me back into Battlefield just a bit more.
That's good because as I said, they're probably harking back on like Battlefield 1942 just by virtue of the title.
Yes.
So it's like, it's good that you coming on to the series as not a latecomer by any means, but just like sort of like midway. But it's still evoking those feelings like from Battlefield 3, which is a game that I enjoyed for bits. So, and I'm not a Battlefield person, but that was the multiplayer and that was fun. Sound design was amazing, but that's good if they can pull people from like all generations of wherever you got into Battlefield and still make that fun. Because I can't remember what the name of the Call of Duty was a year ago, 2 years ago. Modern Warfare, I think they remade it.
The remastered one, yeah. No, not the remastered one, just the renamed one. Yes.
Yeah, the renamed one. And I played the multiplayer from that until I gave my disc back to my friend because I was sick of the updates. That was the worst part of that thing. I probably would have continued playing if it wasn't for the updates, because it's just like, this is annoying. It needs a 60 gigabyte update every day, and it was torture. But it brought me back, and it's like, I feel that's what Battlefield is trying to do, and it's like, the buzz on it is like, yes, it is doing that, and like from what you said, it's like it's bringing you back to those older days. But my fear is that most people will play the more compromised version, and it's like
absolutely
it won't get its dues until critically people will be like, yes, this is the best Battlefield that's come out.
Because they're playing it on high-end PC. High-end PCs and next-generation consoles.
But there might be a disconnect for people actually playing it.
Absolutely. It's an interesting point in terms of harking back to stuff, because previously I watched a lot of videos in early Battlefield, and also when I was playing Battlefield 3 and 4, I was playing the Daisy mod to Armor 2 as well. So I was watching a lot of videos from a couple of YouTubers, one called Jack Frags, who I haven't watched for years because I haven't been playing Battlefield games. And then suddenly I'm like, oh, I'll see what he thinks about this. And I've gone back to it. I've watched a few of his videos since. It's pulled me back in, not just to the game, but back into the community a little bit more as well. And again, people like Jacksepticeye and stuff like that, which I haven't looked at now, but who I'd previously followed like back in those kinds of days. I'm sat here thinking, what does that person think about this? What do they think about this? Like suddenly it's like, right, I'm back in this now.
That's always nice, yeah.
Yeah, completely.
Because you wouldn't have done that.
Absolutely, and I think that's the benefit of a beta, right? Yes, it might be shit, it might be buggy, it might run awfully, but get it back in people's minds, get the community buzzing for it, get some really good high-end previews with these people who have followed it and have that following based on Battlefield. Even if it's years old, but they're still doing their thing, and we can get them in to help us with this. Like that definitely feels like the beta has pushed me, even with only a couple of hours of gameplay, pushed me towards the community enough that I'm now, even though I'm thinking I'll be probably playing this on PC rather than PlayStation, I'm still probably buying the game. And that's all they give a shit about.
But it's good that you've had a chance to try it on PlayStation. You know that there's a caveat with that version.
Absolutely.
Just think those kinds of reviews from people who are not just purely focusing on the next gen version of
Mm.
this. Um, yeah, but Battlefield's got a good PC community, doesn't it? So
Yes.
there's
Yeah,
probably, yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, you'll be hearing, listener, viewer, about Battlefield, I'm sure, Battlefield 2042 within the next month or so. We'll see. I think it's
Yeah,
not. I think it's a November release, an early November
they
release.
pushed it back by a month, didn't they?
They did. Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
there's some interesting things about that game for sure. I hope Battlefield. It's like not a game or series that I've really ever connected with, but it's like always been in the shadow of like Call of Duty. But
Yeah.
it's always done some cool things, and it's like let's hope this is just good for Battlefield fans. To be honest, EA, who's making this one, is it Dice
Yeah. It's Dice. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they could do for win. So it's just like
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, yeah,
So
let's
yeah.
hope it's
Yeah. Good. Let's talk and finish our episode then very swiftly out on our beers this
Yeah.
week. Lucy, how far into the left-handed giant are you? Are you in a position to be able to comment on all three beers and if you
Yeah,
have a preference?
absolutely. Yeah, I probably won't comment on the equilibriums because not sure about that one.
Sure.
Even if it is a case where it's like was meant to be more sour, oh, didn't really like that. But as I say, I'm not sure, so won't comment on it. If I get it again and it's also sour and it's brand new, and I'll probably just say probably one of the nicest sours I've had, but it's just like probably not what I'm looking for an IPA.
Yep.
But this left-handed giant it's 12%, but it doesn't feel like that because you start drinking it and it feels like it's going to be. I mean, it is quite oily in texture, but there's something in it where it just immediately pairs back like any sweetness, any heaviness, that you're gonna get from that, and it just goes down really easily. I'm not saying that because I've had 2 beers before that, but there's just something about it.
Yeah.
Like, what did I have? I had that, the Mutra Mocha that I was talking about before. Very coffee, base, but it had a kind of oiliness that it's like that beer lasted for a long time. I was sipping on it for a long time because it felt heavy. Whereas this, it has that kind of like oily texture, but it feels like it's got like a bit of hoppiness, a bit of pininess almost in that taste where it's like it sort of nullifies that and it's just easier to drink as a result. It feels like you're going into it, it's going to be oily, it's going to be very heavy, very dense, very thick, but it's like no, it's very well balanced with like don't really talk about hops much with a stout, but it feels like it's got that hoppiness and then just cuts through that oiliness,
Yeah.
which is nice. In terms of the honeycomb and pecan, I not really. I have a little bit of nuttiness, but I might be conflating that with like the coffee as well. So that kind of bitterness, but I'm not really. I mean, honeycomb is probably just blending in with that sweetness because if honeycomb, I just relate that to like very sweet kind of thing. Stickiness maybe in that oiliness, but as I say, like a little bit of hops and a little bit of pine just cuts through that. But
honeycomb's a really difficult flavour to pull.
Yeah, especially in something like a stout where there's a lot of sweetness from the alcohol. I mean, yeah, it says maple as well, so very hard to distinguish. But as I say, if like me, you're not a massive fan of very sweet beers, even in your, stouts, don't let this, deter you by the fact that it's got maple and honeycomb in, because not really tasting those, like, above all and else everything, not really.
But it's still a good beer.
Yeah, because it could have been overly sweet, and it's not. because of that, what I described, like something just pulling it back. But maybe if I gave it a bit more thought, it's a bit warm at this point, but
Okay.
it it still tastes good. It's very
Good.
good. It's very 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 good. It's something that could have been way too sweet. I like honeycomb, maple, whatever. I'm glad Adele's not here. It's to Canada, but it's just like take it or leave it. But honeycomb and any nuts in like a stout, very much happy about. But yeah, it's very good still. But I think my favorite is definitely the Beak.
Nice.
Um, oh, yeah, yeah, this is my favorite. So I was thinking, I think me just, you know, um, yearning for a stout for the last couple of weeks could have given it to the left-handed giant, but
Mm.
it's it's probably not a stat that I will remember because out of all the beers that I drink throughout the year, it's usually the stouts that is just stick out to me because those are the ones with the most bold flavors, the ones that are doing the most especially with the alcohol content. But yeah, the Beak Brewery, they're just doing special things.
Yeah.
It's a very well balanced, very it's sweet. It's like how the left-handed giant could have gone. It could be overly sweet, but it's not. It has that kind of like pininess, a little bit of bitterness, just balancing it out. It's very chewy. You just want to drink more of it, but it's a case where you get so many flavors from that. The fruit, um, the chewiness, the dankness. It's like I don't need to take another sip. As I said, it's one of those where it's like you could be happy just smashing it back,
Yep.
or you can also just let it linger. And I think probably just letting it linger and enjoying those flavors, enjoying that balance is probably the best way to go. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick between the two because it's just both beautiful beers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's the Beak Brewery.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. And it's going to spur me on to get the Stur.
Yes, the Stur, the Stur. But yeah, the left-handed giant is like, if you want a beer if that's 12%, that doesn't taste like a 12% beer, that you could literally knock this back because it is paired back so much with the sweetness and the alcohol content is paired back so much in such a good way. Get this. It's
Nice.
very good. But if you are looking for like honeycomb and maple, don't know if you can distinguish those flavors.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think I'm gonna pick the Arbor this week because it feels like a bigger beer. All right, 7.4%, but it feels like it could be edging towards a 10 or 11, just because it is such a bold, big beer. Those flavors are really pronounced and they work very well, and they don't flow. There isn't that flow between these flavors, but it's like, here they are, bam, this is what you're getting. And they work very, very well with each other, especially with that nice light kind of bitter finish to it as well. The Burnt Melon track, I think had this been 6 months ago, may have picked it, and I would love to have drank this. Even 3 months ago, when it was only a few months out from canning. It was nice. I think what it lacked was that bigger tropical kind of note to then lead into, for that beer to have a flow to it, to lead into that big piney ashy bitter flavour, to have something a little bit more sweet up front. That was absolutely dialed back, or dulled at least by age perhaps, to then just present, there's something, here is the bitter kind of finish. So it almost appears one note, but you delve deeper into it and you're like, it's not quite one note, there's something else here. Would age have worked better for it? Should I have had this sort of 3 months ago kind of thing? So the Arbor as a week old beer, but also a breakfast stout, which will probably taste the same in 6 months time anyway. wins for me. I think this week wins is a very awkward term in this kind of thing. I would pick I would pick both again if I knew that the Enigmatic Galaxies was only a month or so old, or a couple of weeks old, or a week old, or something like that. So it's just a lesson to look at dates on cans.
Absolutely.
And when people say, like Cloud War always say, best when fresh, or hops fade fast, or whatever they say. These it is true. It does have an effect.
True. It's not dramatically so. Like, you can absolutely have a beer several months after the fact and enjoy it. It may not be skunked or anything like that, or start to go sour. But yeah, always better. You can just tell when a beer's, fresh out the tap, always the best thing.
Well, yes.
But you can just tell, But you can just tell. With stouts, obviously get better with age, just like us too. But most things. Drink it straight out.
Perfect. A good place for us to finish then this week. There have been the beers that we have drank and the games that we have been playing. If you'd like to talk to us about beers or games, you can get us in lots of different ways. I'm at Nova_47. Lucy is Juicy Loose 9. That's
Indeed.
the socials on Twitter or on most gaming platforms as well. If you want to play games with us, some games have recently come out which we are delving into. I'm playing a little bit of Lemnis Gate, Lucy, and I think, and we're looking at Back for Blood as well. So there's various games, multiplayer games that we are looking at playing as well. So come and chat to us. I'm sure we can hook up some games and things. All of us. Adel included, are tanked up Cass over on Twitter and on Instagram as well, which is much unloved for ages now. Adel is always floating around, and he will be back next week, I believe, for a special, slightly sponsored episode from a Belgian brewery, Hatched. Yeah. We'll talk about more next week about that.
He spent time in Belgium.
Completely. He'll know.
He's fluent in Flemish at this point, I'm sure.
He'll know exactly how to say it. But yeah, we're gonna be chatting about their beers next week, because they've very kindly sent us some samples. So we should be delving into that next week, plus the games that we've been playing and things that we've been doing. But if you've got anything to chat about in the meantime, as I say, hit us up on the socials at our handles, or come and join us in the Out of Lives Discord, and come to outoflives.net as well to read, hear and view lots of different things that all of us over there are doing. I think that's probably it this week.
Yeah, you're very good at plugging. I don't know, you have 2 beers or more and still remember all of that.
Jeez, it's hard. I think I get to a point where I'm like, this, and I get to the end and I'm like, there's something else. There's nothing else. Just say goodbye. Goodbye.
Ciao.
www.outoflives.net